What you're about to see is a real-life story, taken from the files of the police racket and bunco squads, business protective associations, and similar sources all over the country. It is intended to expose the confidence game, the carefully worked-out frauds by which confidence men take more money each year from the American public than all bank robbers and thugs with their violence.
Captain Braddock. Captain Braddock. Ready.
Tonight's story concerns a group of men who play on the emotions of lonely, unhappy people. People who are easy marks for those who are looking for easy money. I call it the case of the dancing lady. It was first brought to my attention when Timothy Morgan came to my office.
Oh, I may be on the wrong track. It's all so strange, and I don't have any proof.
Suppose you tell me about it, huh?
Yeah. Well, Mary and I had been going around together for several years. She was my assistant at the Acme company. And, well, we were going to get married.
For several years you were going to get married?
I probably don't look it, but I guess I'm what you'd call a mother's boy. I guess that's always been the trouble. At least it was the start of Mary's trouble. It all began about 6 months ago. As I told you, she worked as my assistant at the company where I'm employed.
Sing all you want to, honey. You're not fooling anybody.
I don't know what you mean.
Never kiss a boss before a frosted door. The shadows, you know. Oh, what are you blushing about? Kissing's fun.
Mabel, he proposed.
No. Gee, that's great, honey. I never thought Mom's boy would... Well, I mean, when do you sign the papers?
Any day now. Right after lunch, we're going over to the travel agency. Mabel, do you know of any good place for a honeymoon?
Are you naive? Any old place is a good place for a honeymoon.
Are you picking Mary up now, Timothy?
Oh, she's going to meet me here. She's visiting an aunt in the neighborhood.
I see. Going to a movie?
Yeah, probably. Maybe for a drive. Lots of things to do. Look, Mother. Mary and I have been going together for over 3 years.
Timothy, I'm all right. I want you to be very happy.
Well, you don't look very happy right now. Mary's a wonderful girl, Mother. You know the old saying, you won't be losing a son, you'll be gaining a daughter.
Yes, she's very sweet. The upstairs bedroom will fix up very nice, Timothy.
Well, we've been talking about that, Mother, and Mary feels, and I feel the same way, that we probably ought to have a place of our own. There's a new apartment building over on State Street.
You're not moving out.
Well, it's just that we feel, just starting out together, that we ought to be, well, alone. We'll visit you often, Mother.
Such a big house, Timothy.
Keep you busy.
For what? For whom?
Good evening, Mrs. Morgan.
Mary.
That woman is selling these flowers down the street again. They're pretty, aren't they?
Very pretty. Thank you, Mary.
Has Tim told you about us?
Yes. Congratulations.
We'd better go, Mary. First show's about ready to start.
Good night.
Well, you're here kind of early this morning. Too excited to sleep?
No. I'm on somebody's mailing list. 2 free dancing lessons.
What's the matter, Mary?
Nothing. What makes you think anything's wrong?
Your face. It's written all over it. Tim? What happened?
Mother trouble. She's not satisfied to have Tim tied to her apron string. She wants both of us.
Oh, that's tough, you biddy.
She wants us to live with her after we have our apartment picked out and everything. Well, it's finished. I'm not going to see him anymore.
Well, maybe you're right, honey. There are other guys.
No, Mabel. There weren't before. I was so lonely before I met Tim. I never want to be that alone again.
But you don't have to be, honey. Look, this isn't a bad idea at all.
The dancing school?
Sure, why not?
Oh, I couldn't, Mabel.
You could meet a lot of new people and you can forget yourself.
Oh, I couldn't.
Oh, don't be silly. What's the sense in being a wallflower? Where does it get you? How do you suppose I met Harry? Reading True Confessions?
Good evening. Something I can do for you?
Well, this was delivered to me in the mail this morning, and I thought that...
Oh, yes, Miss Temple. We don't have any regular mailing lists, you know. Your name must have been given us by one of our pupils.
I don't think I know any of
That
them.
was Mr. Antoine's idea. You see, we don't advertise in the newspapers. Mr. Antoine insists that we keep things more on an intimate basis.
Oh, I see. Well, really, I'd prefer that, too.
Now, when would you like to start?
Well,
Well, Mr. Antoine,
Yes?
this is Miss Temple.
Very happy to meet you, Miss Temple.
She'd like to take our trial lesson. When do you think you'll be available? Mr. Antoine always gives the first few lessons personally.
I like to be sure that my pupils get a proper start. Let me see here. Miss Becker isn't here yet, huh?
No.
We'll not wait for her. How about starting now?
I hadn't thought about that.
No time like now, Miss Temple. Shall we? 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you relax, Miss Temple, it's easy. Listen to the music. It'll tell you what to do.
I'm trying to, but it's so new.
I think I'm getting it now. It really seemed difficult at first.
Merely a matter of confidence, Mr. Webster. You see, Miss Temple, if you want to badly enough, you can do it.
Yeah, 200 or 300 more lessons should do it for me.
Shall we try it again?
I'd like to.
Elbow in. All right. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2,
I think I've got it.
4.
Yes, there was something new that had been added to Mary Temple's life. Dancing. And Antoine. And meeting other people that were just as lonely as she was.
What is this, Roseland?
Don't worry, boss. We haven't punched the time clock yet.
I've got to talk to you, Mary. Please, Mary, there's no sense our acting like a couple of kids. I've missed you.
Have you?
Sure I have. I've got a present for you.
What is it?
It's a lease on our apartment.
Oh, Tim. You feel silly in this costume, but it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah. And they picked the right thing for me.
Enjoying yourself?
Oh, yes, I'm having a wonderful time. Excuse me.
It really is a wonderful party.
I should have talked to you yesterday, Mary. I forgot. Your course expires with the next lesson. I thought you'd like to make arrangements for the new course.
Oh, I'm afraid there won't be any more after that. See, I'm going to be pretty busy doing other things.
Yes, I understand you're getting married next week.
Well, how did you know that?
We like to keep track of our students, know what's happening to them. It's too bad you're not going to be with us. Mr. Antoine's going to be very disappointed. I think our little girl is slipping the noose.
Don't you worry about it.
Hi, honey. How's about a little drink, huh?
You shouldn't be in here. Now, please go away.
Oh, come on. Just a little drink. It'll make you feel happy.
Oh, Mick! No, don't you dare! Help me!
What's going on in here? Webster, you know this is the ladies' dressing room. Come on, get out of here. Come on, get out of here. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Temple. This won't happen again, I assure you.
About a week later, Tim and Mary were married.
Well, Mrs. Morgan, you're home.
It's lovely, Tim. Simply beautiful.
What are you so surprised about? You know every stick of furniture in the place.
I know, but it's the first time it's all together. Gorgeous.
It was a good marriage, an idyllic relationship. Two lonely people who had one another. And now let's see how this case develops. Tim and the little apartment became Mary's full-time job. Yes, until about 2 weeks later.
Miss Temple.
Why, Mr. Antoine.
Or should I say Mrs. Morgan? I thought I'd come by to see how you were getting along.
Well, come on in. Sit down.
Thank you. Very nice apartment. Lovely flowers.
Tim and I went picnicking Sunday and picked them.
We've missed you at the school. I thought you'd come by to say hello now and then.
Oh, I haven't time for that now. Confidentially, I don't dare learn to dance any better. Tim can scarcely keep up with me now.
That's a shame. And you were such a good pupil. I want you to come back, Mrs. Morgan.
Well, thank you.
Matter of fact, that's why I came over. To enroll you in our new $500 class. I even brought the contract with me. Filled in and ready for your signature.
Well, that's a lot of money, Mr. Antoine. You could hardly expect me even to continue with my dancing lessons. I'm married now.
Certainly, Mrs. Morgan, that's no reason to give up one of the most important of the social graces. I strongly urge you to come back, Mrs. Morgan. You'll like it.
I'm afraid I'm not interested, Mr. Antoine.
Perhaps you'd be interested in this little snapshot.
Who took this? It's horrible.
I thought so, too. So would anybody else that might happen to see it. Oh, you go right ahead, Mrs. Morgan. I still have the negative. I can always make another print in case your husband would like to have one.
Are you trying to blackmail me?
On the contrary, Mrs. Morgan, I merely came by to try to sell you a new $500 course.
If you think I have anything to hide from my husband, you're wrong. I'll tell him what happened. I'll tell him about the party and how that Mr. Webster came into the dressing room. He'll believe me and there won't be a shred of doubt in his mind.
That may be so, Mrs. Morgan. But your husband works for the Acme Company. And he spent a good many years working up to be the general manager. Now, I don't think the owners of the company would like to see the general manager's wife. You think it over, Mrs. Morgan. Oh, incidentally, the new course of instructions includes the tango. It's a very interesting dance.
More dancing lessons? What on earth for? You're not trying to be a professional.
Not that at all, Tim. I just like it. Don't have to be a professional just because I like to dance.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense.
Of course it does. Gives me something to do. I can't stay in the apartment all day long.
All right, honey, if that's the way you feel about it. I guess it's just that $500 seemed like a lot of money to me.
Well, if you resent spending a little money for me to be happy, don't spend it. I'll go to work. I can make the money myself.
Never mind. Tell Mr. Antoine you'll take the lesson.
You're doing fine, Mrs. Morgan.
A new twist on the oldest game of all. And you couldn't blame Mary, not really. She was saving her husband's job, his career. She knew what that job meant to him, how hard he had worked to get it.
Well, that was several months ago. We were wonderfully happy until she started taking those dancing lessons. Then when the first course was finished, it was more lessons. $500, $300, $200.
And she's still going to the school.
Well, she says she is, but I know she isn't. Not often, anyway. And she isn't enjoying it, either. She comes home nervous and unhappy. She's like a different person. We're at each other's throats every minute we're together. They're doing something to her at that school. Something's happening there.
Do you mind if I talk to her about this?
Well, she gets furious anytime I mention it. She'll be furious that I came to see you about it. But isn't there some way you could investigate it without her knowing about it?
No, I'm afraid not. If there's anything wrong with Mr. Antoine's school, she'll have to tell me about it.
There's nothing wrong, nothing. I just like to dance, that's all. Can't a person want to dance once in a while?
I understand that, Mrs. Morgan. But your husband tells me that you often don't take the lessons you've paid for.
Well, that's not true. What do you want to say things like that for? I don't know why he called the police. There's nothing irregular about it. Nothing. You're just jealous because of all of the time I spend there.
There's no reason to be upset, Mrs. Morgan. I'm here only because your husband is concerned.
Well, he has no reason to be.
Are you sure? Are you sure you're not being forced to take those lessons?
No. No, it's not like that at all.
And you see what I mean?
Well, she's not making it any easier for us. I've seen enough to confirm our suspicions about this school. The next few weeks, Antoine's dancing school was under constant surveillance, although Mr. Antoine was hardly aware of it. There were members of my squad there watching carefully for irregularities, anything that might be a clue. I even had Miss Barrett on the job. Antoine didn't know it, but Miss Barrett used to be a professional dancer before she joined the department. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if she could dance rings around him. At the end of a week, we had pictures of everyone remotely connected with the studio, even the elevator boy. And you didn't find anything resembling a lead?
Looks on the up and up, Chief.
No, it can't be. It can't be. Well?
Not one of them in the gallery, Chief. Even the FBI doesn't have their picture. They're clean.
All right, thanks, Ann. I'll want to think about this for a while. I'll call you. Mr. Antoine, if he was a con man, was a pretty good one. There weren't any loopholes in his racket.
How about a bite to eat, Brad?
Yeah, I might just as well. I'm not getting anywhere with this one.
Got a tough one?
Yeah, plenty tough, Joe. It's a racket, but still it isn't a racket.
I'll take homicide. At least when you've got a body, you've got something to work on.
You know him?
This guy looks familiar.
Well, think, Joe, think. Where have you seen him before?
Hold it. Yeah. It had to do with a suicide. Yeah, that's it. A girl had just gotten married. Killed herself a few weeks ago. We found a picture of this guy and the girl together.
What kind of a picture?
You know, one of those compromising poses. The kind you'd use for a shakedown.
And she'd just gotten married.
Sure. Her husband took it pretty hard. The suicide, I mean. We didn't give him the picture.
Thanks, Joe. You may have just solved a case for the Racket Squad.
Hey, I'm an homicide.
Yeah, I know, but could you get that picture for me?
Sure. It's in the files.
Well, let's go, man. Let's go.
Well, hello, Captain.
Hello, Morgan. I'd like to talk to your wife.
Sure, come on in.
Mrs. Morgan, there are a few more things that I'd like to ask you.
Oh, please, I don't have anything to say.
I think that you have. Do you have a copy of that picture, Mrs. Morgan?
What picture?
The one taken with Mr. Webster?
I don't know anything about any picture.
I think we can tell the truth now, Mrs. Morgan.
Hello, Mrs. Morgan. It's good to see you. You haven't been taking your lessons recently.
I want to talk to you.
Certainly. I have quite a large
I want
class.
to talk now.
Of course. Won't you sit down? Well,
I want that negative.
you're nervous, Mrs. Morgan. Why don't you come back when you feel better?
I want it, Antoine, and I won't take no for an answer. I'm tired of being blackmailed.
Blackmail? We only sell dancing lessons here. You're one of our best customers.
Only because you've got that picture.
Please, Mrs. Morgan.
I want to buy it for cash.
Really now? We like to keep our cooperative students.
I've paid you $1,200. That's enough.
We have students who spend many thousands.
Probably keeping them the same way you've kept me.
Why don't you sign up for a new course and we'll discuss the matter as soon as it's finished?
No more lessons. I'll give you $1,000 in cash for that negative.
$1,000 worth of lessons.
Anything you want to call it, but I want that negative.
And it's longer than they wish to stay with us. $1,000?
The negative first.
Here you are, Mrs. Morgan. Now, if you'll sign here.
What's that?
Or merely a formal agreement for the instruction. Oh, I'll mark it paid in full.
I won't sign it.
And why not, Mrs. Morgan?
Ask Captain Braddock of the Racket Squad.
I don't understand. Who are you?
If you were listening to Mrs. Morgan, she just told you.
But what do you want?
You, Antoine, for blackmail.
We do nothing but sell dancing lessons here.
With a sideline of photography. Now, we don't want the same thing to happen to Mrs. Morgan that happened to one of your former pupils. You remember Mrs. Charles Martin, don't you? All right, let's go.
Everything will be all right now, honey.
Well, except for one thing, I'll need a little money for some more lessons.
Lessons?
Cooking school.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the case of the dancing lady. Antoine, Webster, and the hostess are now learning what prison life is about. They'll be there for quite a while. No one can blame lonely people for trying to make their lives just a little happier. But if dancing lessons will solve your problems, be sure you pick the reputable schools. The ones that advertise, the ones that your friends know about. If you don't, a Mr. Antoine could happen to you. I'm closing this case now, or rather the courts will, but there'll be others, because that's the way the world is built. Remember, there are people who can slap you on the back with one hand and pick your pocket with the other. And it could happen to you. What you're about to see is a real-life story. He worked out frauds by which confidence make more money each year from the Americans with their violence.
Braddock. Captain Braddock. Ready.
This case is not the usual run-of-the-mill, because the victim's mother-in-law was actually the unwitting instigator. The victim, well, he was a funeral director. Oh, not the old-fashioned type with the cutaway and the black string tie. Tom Underwood was his name, and he lost a big bundle. He also lost his life and his wife. We'll call this case Kite High. And it all began when Mr. Underwood returned home from a Chicago business trip and found his wife in tears.
I wouldn't put up with it for one more moment. You mark my words, Connie. I know what I'm talking about. I've noticed little things. Things that a young and inexperienced woman wouldn't understand.
Oh, now, Mother, you know that isn't true. Tom loves me, and he's a good husband.
You very well contradict me and call your mother a liar. I'm only thinking of your own good. On Thursday, July the 9th, he didn't come home all night.
That was business.
On September the 4th, he was seen in Kugler's restaurant with a woman.
That was his cousin.
Then how about the Chicago trip? He should have been home 2 days ago.
Well, this is a fine welcome home. Honey, what are you crying about?
You stay away from my daughter.
What? All right, honey. What is it this time?
I called the Park Hotel, and you weren't registered there.
Oh, that. Well, at the last minute, I changed my mind and went to the Carlton.
You must have liked it. You stayed 2 days longer than you expected.
The extra 2 days I spent shooting ducks up at George Green's place in Wisconsin.
A very likely story.
What business is it of yours?
There. Shouting about it proves you've something to be ashamed of.
Tom, haven't you got anything to say?
Yes, I have. For 2 years now, I've put up with your mother. Now I'm through. I haven't done anything wrong. I never have, as far as you're concerned. But she's taken keen delight in conjuring up trouble.
Oh, but Tom...
Now, wait a minute, Connie. Every argument we've ever had's been caused by her. Look, honey, I know we're in love, but what chance has it got if I've got to report to a parole officer every night?
That's insulting.
It's the truth.
Constance, are you going to
Oh, please, Mother. Tom, let's stop all this. I'll forgive you.
There's nothing to forgive. But there is one thing to get straight. Either she gets out of here or I do.
Well, I never.
Why, Tom, you know Mother can't leave. Her sacroiliac's twisted.
Too bad it isn't her neck. Well, if that's the way it's to be, my bags are still packed.
Took quite a long trip out to a western town where a lot of people go to forget their troubles and get into trouble. There's always been gold around here. Originally it came out of the earth, but now it's sitting right on the gaming tables. If your luck is good, you may get some. And that reminds me, if you burn easily, stay home. The sun is hot, and so are the dice. Pretentious, isn't it? And it offers everything it implies. None of that wild and woolly west stuff here. It's a nice spot for those who can afford plush living. And Mr. Underwood could afford it. He went to one of the best of the big hotels, and of course, like most people with troubles, his first stop was the casino and bar. You have a nice choice here. You can gamble or you can drink. Mr. Underwood decided to do both.
Good evening, sir.
Hello. I'd like to cash a check. I'm registered here at the hotel.
Of course. Do you have any credentials, Mr.
Underwood. Thomas Underwood. I think you'll find everything you need here. Oh, yes, Mr. Underwood. Fidelity Bank, Denver, eh? And what would you like to place your credit at?
I don't know. Guess I got 40 or 50,000.
No, I didn't mean what was your bank balance, Mr. Underwood. I meant how much cash would you need daily? You see, it's our policy to have you set your own limit for your own protection.
Oh, well, shall we make it 1,000?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, Wally. This is Sherry.
Oh, hello, honey. What's new?
I've just run into something that talks in 50 G's and proves it.
Well, you think you can handle it?
He's as ripe as a cantaloupe in August.
Well, crate him up and bring him over.
Right, sweetie. See you later.
So long.
Hit me. Hit me again. Good.
Good.
I'll pay 20.
Beats me.
Pay me.
Look at him.
Bourbon or water?
Thanks.
Say, you're not doing so well.
Well, they're only $5 chips. I don't hit it hard.
Yeah, that's my theory. I lose 29 on the slot machines. Figure I'd break even.
Even?
Well, sure. I make 20 a day so I can afford it. If I bet 40, I'd be losing.
Oh. Well, this isn't my night.
No, mine neither. All night this place has been dead.
Don't use that word.
Oh, sorry, sir. It's just that the shift is so slow, my feet are killing me.
I don't like that word either.
Hey, I think you're getting stiff.
That does it.
Excuse me for laughing, but you seem to have an aversion to death.
I have. Except during business hours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Give me a Manhattan, will you please?
I guess I better explain. You see, I'm a funeral director.
Really? Well, you don't look like one.
Thanks. Times have changed. We don't hang crepe on our hats or look like professional pallbearers anymore.
I've never met a funeral director before. In fact, I was hoping I would for some time to come.
Well, I didn't introduce myself. My name's Tom Underwood.
And I'm Sherry Pine. It's nice knowing you.
You're on a vacation?
A temporary one that'll be final in a few weeks. I'm getting a divorce.
Oh.
Don't you believe in such things?
I don't know. I may have to.
Unhappy?
Call it confused. I think it fits better. And I got a swell wife. But I got a mother-in-law who'll drive me to an early grave. Oh, excuse me.
You're forgiven. But what's the answer to your problem? Las Vegas?
I hope not. By now, I just want to forget about it. Maybe do a little gambling. Care to help me get rid of these?
Love to. I was watching you at the table before. You seem to be a pretty consistent loser.
What about you?
I do all right, but not here.
What do you mean?
Mr. Underwood, I'm a woman here alone seeking a divorce. I don't think it's the smartest thing in the world to be seen gambling in a public casino.
You're absolutely right, but where?
A private game. I was introduced into it by very prominent people who also like to gamble without publicity. And it's been fun and profitable.
I like that idea of avoiding notoriety. I've had a little trouble at home, but I have certain standards to live up to.
I'm quick at decisions, and you're one of them. Perhaps because you're sort of a lost soul at the moment. It's close by. Shall we take your car?
I think we better take yours. I don't think you want to ride in mine.
Why not?
I drove up in a hearse.
say, this is all right.
I like it. Shall we play?
You know, I think I should have gotten some more money over at the hotel. I don't have much cash left.
Well, they know me. I'll introduce you to Mr. Wallace, and then you can cash your check.
Good.
Hello, Mrs. Pine.
Hello, Mr. Wallace.
Feeling fortunate again tonight?
I'll leave that to the fates. I'd like you to meet Mr. Underwood. This is Mr. Wallace.
Glad to know any friend of Mrs. Pine's, Mr. Underwood.
Thanks. Mrs. Pine tells me she's had quite a bit of luck here. Do you mind if I try to share it?
Not at all.
Oh, Wally, by the way, Mr. Underwood mentioned as we came in he'd like to cash a check.
A check? How much would you like?
Well, could we make it 1,000?
Mr. Underwood, it's against our policy to cash checks. This is a private game, not the casino.
Make an exception this time, Wally. I'll stand good for it.
It's all right with me. You make out your check over here, Mr. Underwood.
Thanks. How am I doing?
Bad luck to count, but you're way ahead.
Thank you. 12, 13, 14, 1,500. Not bad. Let's celebrate.
Just as soon as I powder my nose.
Okay.
Nice work, baby.
Glad you like it, honey.
Amazing, isn't it? Underwood actually did win, and in a spot where he looked like a sure mark. Well, they were very clever, as you'll see in just a moment when we follow up the case of Kite High.
Hello?
Hello, Marty.
Yeah, Wally. How are you?
Okay. How about Underwood's checks?
They cleared in Denver. No stops, no questions, no nothing.
Good. I'll be seeing you.
Cool and sparkling, isn't it? You can dunk your entire gorgeous body in this spring water, or you can just dip your hot little toes in it and forget the dizzy spin of the roulette wheel.
Good morning.
Morning, Sharon. I called you early this morning. I thought maybe we could have breakfast together.
Oh, I'm sorry. They have good horses here, and I like to ride the desert in the early morning. Oh, please finish your breakfast. Like most women, I'm on a diet, so I enjoy watching other people eat.
That's masochism. Speaking of riding, we certainly took that 21 game for a nice little ride.
3 nights in a row.
Wait till I tell the boys back home. I'm a couple thousand ahead.
How nice.
Hey, you see, I got a system. Each morning I mail all my cash back to the bank for deposit. Then each night I write another check.
That's a system?
Well, sure, don't you understand? That way they can't win back more than the amount of the check. And I only write 1 check a night.
It's all very confusing, but it's all right.
Hi, how are you?
Well, well, Mrs. Pine and Mr. Underwood, the 2 luckiest players in our little family.
I'm surprised you'd even speak to us.
Well, the bitterness of the evening is all washed away by the sunshine of the morning.
How nicely put, Mr. Wallace. I'm for a swim. See you gentlemen later. Bye.
Bye. Sit down, would you?
Thank you. Attractive, isn't she?
Very. You known her long?
Oh, a few weeks. That's long enough to recognize a lady. That's why we like to have her in our little game.
I don't want to appear inquisitive, Mr. Wallace, but how do you get a private game like yours started?
Oh, it's not very difficult. I happen to know people with a great deal of money. Now, for instance, a Texas oil man introduced Mrs. Pine. She introduced you. Just nice people who prefer the intimacy of my home to that of the casino.
Looks like I'm traveling in high society. I just happened to think of something. Isn't a game like yours a little risky? I mean, isn't there a chance of it being raided?
Well, gambling's legal in the state of Nevada, Mr. Underwood. Of course, we don't have a license.
Oh. Well, I'll see you tonight, Mr. Wallace. I got to write a letter.
So you go right ahead, Mr. Underwood. But if you're writing home, I'm sure it can't be for money.
That's right. I'll see you later.
Oh, Mr. Underwood, I'm sorry to bother you, but it's about your hearse.
Is what?
This funeral hearse. You have it parked right in front of the casino entrance.
That's right.
Could you please move it around the back? It doesn't do the business any good.
You mean it has sort of a deadly effect? That's the funniest thing I ever heard. I mean it. That's the funniest thing I ever heard of.
Well, I'm glad you have such a sense of humor. I'll take advantage of it.
Well, that's a bit heavy, isn't it?
Won't weigh me down. Which reminds me, you know, I'm such a trusting soul, I'd have a check with you. What's the take on our funeral director?
Here's the check you cashed last night. $5,000.
What are you waiting for?
Nothing. I was just going to see the professor. Come on, Professor. You've got work to do.
Always work. I could get more rest by being honest.
Maybe, but not as much money. Another Underwood check.
For 5,000 this time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much do I race it to?
25,000.
25,000, the man says.
That means our sucker is in for 40 grand altogether.
When you use a kite, you fly it high, don't you, darling?
Why not? I never did like funeral directors. Now, when the professor finishes, I'll get that pretty little check cleared, airmail, special delivery.
Here you are, Mr. Underwood. Bourbon and water.
Thanks. You got a stamp?
No, but I'll mail it for you. I love to play post office.
It's to my wife. I'd like it to go airmail special delivery.
Will do. What's the matter, Mr. Underwood? You got troubles?
Andy, I'm lonely. I had a fight with my family and I left.
I did the same thing with my wife. I stayed away 2 years. Then I went back and rang the doorbell. Guy answered, beat my brains out.
I think I'll go home.
Mr. Underwood said he thought he'd go home, but he didn't.
Who? Oh, Mr. Underwood. Yeah, just a minute. He's here. Long distance for you, Mr. Underwood.
Me?
Yeah.
Hello? Connie. Oh, it's good to hear your voice.
Oh, Tom, it's even better to hear yours.
You want me to come back?
Of course I want you to come back. Silly. Shouldn't have let you go in the first place.
You're making a mistake.
But, Tom, there's something else that's even more important right now. The bank phoned this morning. Your account's overdrawn.
There must be some mistake. Why, I had $50,000.
I'll bet he's trying to lie out of it.
Tom, they're not crazy.
He's probably mixed up with some woman.
Mother, will you please shut up? Tom.
I'm leaving.
Tom, I don't know what your explanation is, but the bank thinks there's something wrong with those checks. They haven't cleared the last one. They suspect that it's... Well, I think they called it kited. They've called the police.
Kited. That means raising the amounts. I'll talk to you later, Connie. Right now, I've got to see a man. So long, honey.
Well, baby? Are you all packed?
Practically. So what's the destination?
Kansas City. I have a hunch we've drained Mr. Underwood of everything but his embalming fluid, and I don't want to be here when he finds out.
What a laugh. He'll be the only mourner at his own funeral.
You better step inside. Well, hello, Mr. Underwood. Aren't you a little early?
I should have been here days ago, when you first started kiting my checks.
Kiting? I don't know what you're talking about.
I want my money back. Every penny of it.
And suppose you don't get it?
Then I'll call the police.
Are you all right, Wally?
Yeah. He's out cold. You swung that vase pretty hard, kid.
You mean he's...
I don't know. We're in a spot, kid.
Not if we get rid of him.
Yeah, but how? Wait a minute. That funeral hearse of his.
What about it?
We'll load him in it and drive it out to the desert. Nobody will stop a hearse. If he isn't dead now, that desert heat will do the trick.
What an end for a funeral director.
Yeah. I'll go get the funeral hearse.
Sorry, Mr. Wallace. You may not be ready for a hearse, but you are for a police car. We've been watching you for some time. Well, you're pretty lucky, Mr. Wallace. A bunco charge is bad enough, but homicide is worse. Let's go. Come on.
Well, I hope I've been able to give you some idea of how the con man operates in actual cases. The fact is, you'll find con men almost any place. From the scrubbiest parts of town all the way up to the playgrounds of the social set. And in each case, they manage to fit right into the background they're working against. And when you tell a sucker that he's been swindled, most of the time he won't even believe it. But finally, when the truth does sink in, he says, but how was I to know he didn't look like a con man? Well, they never do. Or they wouldn't be in the business very long. Now, can you tell a con man when you see one? Is there any way? No, because he looks just like anybody else. The con man uses only what nature gave him. His brain, charm, an ingratiating manner, and an understanding of human nature that would do justice to a professor of psychology, believe me. Let's face the facts. No one's going to give you something for nothing. Investigate before you invest. Don't be a sucker for these criminals who are so confident they can fool anyone, even you. See Racket Squad next week, same time, same station.
Philip Morris, America's most enjoyable cigarette, presents
Racket Squad.
What you're about to see is a thrilling, dramatic real-life story. Taken from the official files of the police racket and bunco squads, business protective associations, and similar sources all over the country. It is presented by Philip Morris as a public service to expose the confidence game. The carefully worked out frauds by which confidence men take more money each year from the American public than all the bank robbers and thugs with their violence. Would you believe that some of us are still buying such time-worn commodities as the Brooklyn Bridge, Niagara Falls, a device to make high-test ethyl gasoline out of ordinary rainwater, and the latest, stock shares in the gold at Fort Knox? Well, you can believe it. As this gentleman, an authority, will tell you, it happens all the time. Commodore Stitch, when did you last sell the Brooklyn Bridge?
It was a Golden Gate Bridge. It wasn't too long ago.
And where did you spend the following summers, Commodore?
I believe it was at a bay resort called San Quentin, but the rates were too high.
And in all your deals, Commodore, how much money did you take in?
Oh, I never kept track. The newspapers say it was in excess of $5 million.
$5 million?
But you know, some of the switches put over on adults wouldn't have fooled a 7-year-old child. Personally, I never tried to cheat an honest man.
You mean the person who attempts to get something for nothing, a lot for a little, is more vulnerable?
I think that explains it very well.
And your one more dream man was such a person?
A perfect example. Oh, my prize pigeon. Do you know of anyone who would believe the story?
The story just mentioned by our visitor would make an ingenious premise for a musical farce. But as a scene out of everyday life, you may find it extremely difficult to believe. But it did happen. To our friend the Commodore and to a money-hoarding millionaire whom we shall call Mr. Titus Mealy. It began at a time when Commodore Stitch was traveling the Oregon Short Line. Con lingo, this means during a period when the Commodore was financially frustrated.
That's my magazine. Know anything about clairvoyance, mister? Huh? No. You wouldn't. You don't look like you'd know anything.
Cannibal. How's business?
Very good.
After observing some of the gluttony around here, I don't see how you can manage to stay in business serving all the food you can get for 50 cents.
I've wondered about it myself.
It's like feeding time at the zoo. All we need is a few growls. I take that character over there. How often does he eat here?
He's always at the same table, 3 times a day.
3 times
Every day.
I still don't see why you don't go bankrupt. If I was the owner of this restaurant, I'd pay him to stay away.
The funny part of it is that he can afford 10 of these restaurants and still have a couple of $1 million left over.
Titus Mealy, eccentric multimillionaire. Today told the Times Herald reporter that he was merely following the advice of his psychic consultants who... I give up.
As of this moment, Titus Mealy was a gone goose. The Commodore quickly organized his team and was now ready to proceed with the carefully rehearsed steps necessary in the fleecing of a mark, or sucker. The volume, Adventure in Clairvoyance, with the exception of Chapter 3, was authentic. The distinguished-looking gentleman on the front piece was a fraud. Our old friend, Commodore Stitch. In a few seconds, you will witness one of the more important steps in the big con, in which Kay Wilson, known to her co-workers and to the police as Salvation Sal, will attempt to rope or steer Mr. Mealy by telling him the tale, baiting him for the Commodore's trap.
I beg your pardon. That book you're reading, it belongs to me.
Can you prove it?
Now, see here.
No use getting indignant about it, young lady. I asked you a simple question.
That book is mine. I left it here. Please let me have it.
How do I know it's yours? Because you say so?
Because it was autographed to me by the author, Heinrich von Rinke.
What's your name?
Catherine Wallace.
down, young lady. I'd like to talk to you.
Oh, I'm afraid not, you see.
Just for a few moments, I'd like to talk to you about the book.
Well, just for a few moments.
I was fascinated by the title of Chapter 3.
And yet there are scoffers who put clairvoyance in the same category as fortune-telling.
Not me. Why, in 1929, I got a premonition that a crash was coming. So what did I do? I sold short, made me a fortune. Yes, sir. I believe what Von Rinker says in this chapter. The day is not far off when a highly psychic individual will be able to project his thoughts, his dreams, past, present, and future on a screen like a motion picture. A man like that could become as rich as Croesus in no time. Maybe the day is already here.
I'm sorry. I really must be going.
Did I say something that offended you?
I can't discuss the subject with you any further.
Is it that I stumbled onto something? You can trust me, Miss Wallace. When can I meet Von Rinker?
Herr Von Rinker is in Europe. When he returns, he'll be too occupied to talk to anyone.
How long will he be in Europe?
Just long enough to raise funds for his new work.
His new work, eh? Perhaps I can help him financially. Oh, don't let appearances fool you, Miss Wallace.
The meekness of the mighty. And here I was feeling sorry for you.
No, I'm not poor, and I'd like to help Von Rinker.
He won't accept financial aid from you or any other individual, Mr. Mealy.
Suppose he doesn't get any help in Europe. What then?
It would just delay his work that much longer. He's no longer young.
Then we've got to help him in spite of himself.
But how?
Suppose I was to head a scientific group. Call it the Institute of Metaphysical Research. Put all the bills myself.
Kay Wilson has now skillfully maneuvered Mr. Mealy into a spot where he's not only begging to be fleeced, he is also furnishing the device. Mr. Mealy was now firmly on the hook. The next step was giving him the breakdown, determining exactly for how much he could be taken.
Van, how large a tap would you say Titus Mealy is good for?
Beats me. For a character who dresses as he does and eats in beaneries, I doubt if we'll even get a sawbuck out of him.
He's good for 100 G's, if not more. I've given him a good canvas. He's a pushover for horoscopes, fortune tellers, anything that will give him an edge in adding more of the filthy lucre to his already swollen millions.
But wait till he gets a load of that dynamic thought projector.
I lay 6-2 and even right now. The first thing he will ask for is a tip on the stock market and the winner of the Kentucky Derby.
That's Mealy.
Benny, you better phone your friend at Associated Press right now.
Come in, Mr. Mealy.
Miss Wallace, I intend to spend the rest of the evening in the laboratory. I do not wish to be disturbed.
What's the matter with him?
He's been in a horrible mood all day.
Guess his European trip must have been a washout, huh?
Complete failure. They laughed at what he's trying to do.
The dynamic thought projection?
Just as they laughed at Charcot, Nesmith, Freud, and others who dared to venture into the unexplored regions of the mind.
Miss Wallace, if Von Rinker will give me a demonstration of thought projection on a screen right here and now, I'll back him to the extent of $100,000. More, if necessary.
Such a demonstration is completely out of the question, Mr. Mealy.
You know better than that, Miss Wallace.
$100,000 is an enormous sum, Mr. Mealy. What prompts you to do this?
I like to help people.
Wait, please.
I told you distinctly I do not wish to be disturbed.
I will not have you shouting at me this way.
You make me shout. I never shout. Has he raised the ante?
Herr Von Rinker, just this once, please.
All right. For you, I do it. A demonstration of clairvoyance. Nothing else.
Step into the laboratory, please, Mr. Mealy.
You are falling into a deeper and deeper sleep. You are falling. You will pay no attention to outside disturbances. You hear only my voice. Soothing. Soothing. You're falling into a deeper and deeper sleep. 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 The subject has reached the 5th degree of hypnosis. This is known as somnambulism. He's now able to see and perceive independently of the physical sense of sight, to see beyond the veil of eternity into the past, present, and future. Due to those repeated experiments, the subject is approaching a state of clairvoyant exhaustion. To continue without purpose would destroy 10 years of painstaking efforts and research. However, I will permit him to answer 2 questions, which you will write on this index card.
Actually, the Commodore had palmed the index card containing Mealy's questions, and was now passing it to a Confederate on the other side of the wall.
Are you asleep? You may talk. Are you asleep?
Yes, I am asleep.
Your powers of concentration are infinite. For you, there's no distance, no space, no time, no resistance. A visitor has asked 2 questions, which you must answer. What is the first question? I repeat, what is the first question?
Is there a Wall Street stock due for a sensational decline within the next few months?
What is the answer to this first question?
There is such a decline imminent.
Ask him the name of the stock.
Bulgarian. What is the visitor's second question?
He wishes to know the winner of the Kentucky Derby.
What is the answer to this second question?
It is very difficult for me to see that far into the future. I begin to see a name. Now it fades. I no longer see it. It brought to mind a city in the Midwest, also of that name.
Omaha. I'll put down a little bet for you too, Professor.
Silence! Was the name of the horse Omaha?
I cannot say for certain. It faded too soon.
Due to the lack of finance, it may take some time before the apparatus is perfected, so that the distant future will be as of the present. The subject is already oriented. It is now the mechanical phase which must coordinate. However, the past is no enigma, nor the immediate future. You hear only my voice. Your mind is relaxed, passive. You're in full control of the 5 senses. Your powers of concentration are infinite. Can you predict something of importance which we do not yet know?
It's all very dim. Wall Street. Heavy trading in the exchange. Near panic in the stock market.
You will now let your thought currents wander deep into the past and bring to our visitor a scene he has long forgotten.
I see an old 2-story frame house surrounded by shrubs and cottonwood trees. Over the front door of the house, I see a horseshoe. On one of the cottonwood trees, I can clearly see 2 carved-out initials. The initials are T.M.
Do you recognize this scene?
It's the old farmhouse in Kansas, where I was born.
I know just how you feel, Mr. Mealy.
Oh, you don't. They discovered oil on the property right after I sold it.
Was Mealy convinced he was looking at the house in which he was born?
It was the house he was born in. I took it from a photo right out of Mealy's family album. He was convinced, all right.
And is that when he parted with his first 100,000?
Oh, no. It wasn't that easy. You see, Mealy wanted immediate tips on the stock market, fights, horse races. So I managed to fix a few small ones, but I knew it couldn't go on indefinitely. I wanted something else fast to put him on the big scent, and I got it.
Well, what was it?
Through Katie Wilson, he was told that the real reason for my experiments with Van was that I almost perfected an engine which would run without fuel of any kind. And that one, he bit hard.
Good to see you, Mr. Mealy.
What is it now? More money?
I have wonderful news.
Let me be the judge of that.
We've reached the final step in the perfection of the motor. If everything goes right, we'll be finished tonight.
Well, just one more dream, eh, Miss Wallace?
Exactly. One more dream. And all of our hopes will be realized.
I'm ready, Miss Wallace. I need not remind you that we are on the threshold of a great discovery. Should the atom eventually be split, which I doubt, it still would not dim what's about to transpire here in a matter of few moments. I must warn you also that the subject is close to the exhaustion point. And since this requires the ultimate in concentration and exercises unbelievable strain, I will ask you to remain completely silent while we are in progress. Your phenomenal powers of concentration are infinite. For you, there is no distance, no space, no time, no resistance. You now see clearly what heretofore has been a labyrinth of confusion. Transmit this phenomenon so that we also may see. Transmit this phenomenon so that we also may see. Transmit this phenomenon so that we also may see. hesitate to do this, but under the circumstances, I must step up the voltage.
What is this?
I was afraid this would happen. Oh, a work of a life.
What do you mean?
Subject has developed insomnia.
What?
Clairvoyant insomnia. The work of a lifetime ruined. Ruined.
Well, do something.
Nothing we can do.
Step up the voltage.
And cause a cranial hemorrhage that will constitute murder.
Then I'll do it myself.
No, Mr. Mealy, you can't.
Don't tell me what I can't do, young woman. I got a fortune invested here, and it's got to pay off.
This man is dead.
Assassin. Murderer.
Convinced that he could be held for manslaughter, and with Cabe pleading with the Commodore to call it accidental, Mealy was more than happy to contribute an additional $50,000 to the subject's widow.
Yeah, the old boy will really flip his lid when he learns he's been rooked.
You'll get it back soon enough.
Yeah? How?
As long as they are helpless widows and gullible spinsters. He'll do all right.
And when did Mealy first tumble to the hoax?
Or about a year later, when he ran into the real Van Rinker in Vienna.
You know, it's amazing that he should be taken in by such an obvious swindle.
Mealy had a blind spot. Most of us do. He told me what it was. The rest was easy.
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing now, Commodore, to occupy your time?
I'm a babysitter.
Well, you can't do any business there.
No, you can't fool babies.
No, you can't fool babies. And judging from the reports that are brought to me every day, people are just begging to be fooled, providing they can be made to feel they're getting something for nothing, a lot for a little. And unless you are forever on your guard, the same thing that happened to Titus Mealy can happen to you. Places in tonight's story have been changed for obvious reasons, and any resemblance to other people and places is purely coincidental. Our story is presented to expose the confidence game, and is never intended to reflect in any way upon honest, legitimate businessmen.
Tune in every Monday night when Philip Morris presents My Little Margie, starring Gail Storm and Charles Farrell over most of these same stations. For delayed telecasts, see your local television listings for time and station.
Racket Squad.
What you're about to see is a real-life story, taken from the files of the police racket and bunco squads, business protective associations, and similar sources all over the country. It is intended to expose the confidence game, the carefully worked out frauds by which confidence men take more money each year from the American public than all the bank robbers and thugs with their violence.
Captain Braddock. Captain Braddock. Ready.
Working with the Racket Squad, I've tangled with all kinds of phonies, all kinds of bunco games. But this gag was something special. I call it the case of the Miracle Mud. It all started a short time ago, quite by chance, in a little suburban community about 20 minutes' ride from our city. A busy little town called Fairview, with about 20,000 pretty loyal citizens. It was just the kind of a town Jim Edwards was looking for, the kind of a place he wanted to settle in. That's what he told Mary Higgins, Fairview's leading and practically only real estate broker.
I'm sure you're going to like Fairview, Mr. Edwards.
I think Fairview's fine, Miss Higgins.
We think so, too.
Of course, I could go back home, but Nebraska gets mighty cold in the winter. The climate's not too good for a leg like mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's arthritis. Funny kind of thing to collect in a war. The doctor says I've got to learn to live with it.
I'm sure it will improve, Mr. Edwards. Tell me, what kind of a place were you looking for?
It should have some trees, and maybe a little stream nearby. Something like Nebraska. It's got to be pretty cheap.
I'm sure we can find something for you. Let's get started looking right now.
All right.
Well, that was Jim Edwards, and that's how he met Mary Higgins. Mary was immediately sympathetic to this troubled young man. She'd find him a nice place to live, and that was a promise.
Well, I think I've showed you about everything, Mr. Edwards.
I hate to be such a tough customer. It's just that I know exactly what I want.
I don't think we're going to find Nebraska in Fairview.
Maybe something out a ways. Something with trees around it. Maybe a little stream nearby.
Water and trees. Would you mind a little mud and swamp thrown in?
Well,
I don't think you'll like it. But it's only a few minutes from here. Come on, let's take a look. Hop in. Well, there it is. Not much to look at, is it? It was old man Horton's place. He died several years ago, and the bank owns it now.
looks all right.
All right.
Those trees over there and that stream.
What about the mud and swamp over there?
I don't have to go over there, do I? Let's take a look at the house.
All right, let's go.
Kind of beat, isn't it?
It sure is.
How much would I have to pay for it?
You're not serious.
I sure am. Some paint, a little nails, and some elbow grease will fix this place up fine. If I can ever get this old leg of mine working again, there's some acres on the south side where I can do some planting.
Do you really think you want this place?
Sure, if the price is right.
The bank has been trying to unload this mud pot for years. Offer them half of what they ask and they'll grab it.
Okay, let's start offering.
Well, Jim Edwards bought that broken-down house and paid $1,750 for it. $1,750 in the cold coin of the realm.
Now, I suppose you want a little money.
Jim thought he made the best buy of his life. Mary wasn't quite so sure. Jim was more than an ordinary client now. And Mr. Robinson? Yes, Mr. Robinson was delighted to cross a liability off the books.
Well, now that just about does it.
How soon can I move in, Mr. Robinson?
Well, since the escrow is in order and the house is empty, I think just as soon as you'd care to.
That'll be this afternoon. Where can I get a taxi?
I'll be your taxi.
Well, I wouldn't want to trouble you.
No trouble. Just call it a Mary Higgins company service.
Thanks, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Inside of a week, he had the house looking pretty good. Everybody in town might have thought that Jim bought a lemon. But they liked Jim, and they wanted to be helpful.
I got you no roof here.
Thanks, Ed. I thought you didn't have it in stock. How did you get it so fast?
What's 40 or 50 miles between friends?
How much?
Oh, no hurry, Jim. You can pay me when I bring that pipe out.
Oh, now, Ed.
Now, look, I'll be around Sunday and give you a hand. So long.
Thanks, Ed.
Jim, come in a minute. Well, how do you like them?
Swell.
I finally found a reason to be glad Mother taught me how to use the sewing machine.
I sure appreciate all the help you're giving me.
Well, I guess I want the place to look nice because I feel so guilty.
Guilty? Why?
Oh, you know, selling you a pig in the poke. But now, I don't know if I did.
I think you did fine.
About these curtains.
6 weeks passed, and by now Jim knew everybody, and everybody knew Jim. The climate, or whatever Fairview had to offer, was doing things for Jim's health. He walked straighter now. His limp was noticeably better.
Jim! Jim!
Right here, Mary.
What are you doing in there?
Sort of taking a bath, I guess.
I don't always understand everything I see.
I know it'll sound kind of funny, but a few weeks ago I was walking around back here and I found this hot spring. Well, I guess I've tried everything else for my legs, so I figured I'd try that too.
I see.
The first time I dunked myself, I thought I felt a little better, a little less pain.
Do you really think the mud had something to do with it?
Well, I wasn't sure about it then, so I came here almost every day, about a half hour each time. Got to be a regular habit. I thought it was a crazy thing to do. That's why I didn't tell you about it before. But whatever's in that mud has done wonders for me.
It's hardly believable.
I know. Look, 2 months ago, I couldn't raise this leg an inch. Now look. You know something? I think I'm going to be able to work those 3 acres out on the south side myself.
Oh, Jim, that's wonderful.
Come on.
It's just unbelievable, Ed, but he gets along wonderfully now.
That old mud? Oh, Mary.
Believe what you want, Ed, but it's true.
Go on.
All right, I will.
There must be something to it, Mr. Platt. He actually wallers around in that mud twice a day.
So I understand. Still babbling about the mud, Ed?
You wouldn't believe in anything.
I'm in the insurance business, Ed. I believe in facts and figures.
Well, there must be something to it. Edwards couldn't hardly walk when he came to town. Now look at it.
That's exactly what I've been saying. Why, that goo is better than medicine.
My wife got Edwards' permission to try it. She's been over there the last couple of days. She says it helps her rheumatism.
And she's not the only one. Mrs. Billings is trying it, too.
Might be something. You can't tell. So your mother-in-law is ailing, Ed. Why don't you send her out there?
That old battle axe? The only way to do her any good is if she went into it head first.
That's good.
Jim Edwards' discovery got around town pretty fast. And it wasn't long before there was an article in the town paper. And then it really started.
Hi, Mary.
Hello, Joe. I just got a call from a Mr. Harrington. What room is he in?
The room is 306, 307, and 308. That guy would have taken the whole floor.
Who is he?
Oh, I don't know, but he sure got nothing but money.
Maybe he'd like to trade it in on a little real estate.
Sister, that guy could buy up the whole town.
Maybe I'll sell it to him. Mr. Harrington sent for me. I'm Mary Higgins.
Oh, yes. This way, please.
Yes. Wire and tell them what I said. I'll check with you on this new project tomorrow. Right. Bye.
Mr. Harrington, this is Miss Higgins.
Of the Higgins Real Estate Office, the leading realtor in town.
Oh, yes, and practically the only one in town. Did you arrange for the limousine, Peters?
Oh, yes, sir. It's out front now.
Good. I think you can help us, Miss Higgins. I'd like to look at the Williams property.
Williams?
The man that owns the swampland, where you people have been going for mud baths.
Oh, you mean Jim Edwards?
Oh, yes. Edwards, that's it. Yes, I'd like to examine it and possibly purchase it.
Well, I don't think it's for sale.
Money talks, young lady. If there's enough profit for this young gentleman, he'll sell. Got the sample jars, Peters?
Oh, yes, everything is ready, sir.
Can you spare the time to go out with us?
I suppose so.
Oh, but, Mr. Harrington, those calls from New York, we're expecting them any minute now.
Oh, they'll have to wait. This is more important.
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, it seemed that the mud out at Jim's place was getting a lot of publicity. And not only in Fairview. Big business was interested now.
Yes, young man, this may be an important day for you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harrington. I still don't understand.
If those samples contain the elements of therapeutic value we think they do, you're going to make some money.
I don't know about selling the place. I like it here. I've made it my home.
I know how you feel. But if we build a health resort here, a national spa, it'll help not only you and those in your community, but ailing people all over the world. Well, Peters?
I have everything necessary, Mr. Harrington.
Good. We'll fly them to the main office this afternoon. The report should begin in the morning. May I run you back, Miss Higgins?
No, thank you. Jim will take me.
Very well. You'll be hearing from me.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye, Miss Higgins.
Jim, what do you think?
I don't know. It's all so sudden. It sure would be a windfall.
When they start making the offers, you let them talk to me. I handle the real estate around here.
Okay, you're the boss.
What's it all about, Harry? I broke up a bridge game because of you. The old lady's plenty sore.
Hold your horses, Charlie. This is more important than 1,000 bridge games.
Just got your call, Harry. What's on your mind?
I can't get anything out of him. What's all the secrecy?
It's this Edwards property.
Oh, that mud again.
Don't be so smart. This is the most important thing that ever hit Fairview.
What makes you think that?
There's a Mr. Harrington in town. He's vice president of the National Corporation. I heard he's one of the biggest health resort operators in the country.
What are you talking about?
If anybody's going to build a health resort around here, why shouldn't it be us? If we boys get together, we can buy the property and finance the building ourselves.
Well, maybe we could.
Why should anybody else get the profits? Why can't it be a community proposition where we all share?
Well, count me in, Harry. Billy's been laying in that mud for a week now for a rheumatism. We might as well keep it in the family.
Okay. But first, I want to make sure of the report on the sample analysis before we make any bids on the property.
Well, if I know these fellas, they're not going to let loose of that information.
Don't worry about that. 2 minutes after the report comes in, I'll know about it.
I got a telegram from Mr. Harrington. Can you tell me what room he's in?
I'll deliver it.
Now, wait a minute. I'm supposed to deliver it myself.
I'm the clerk here, and I deliver all messages. Hello, Mr. Robinson? Yeah, it just came in. I'll read it to you. Here it is. Specimens Fairview deal show tremendous possibilities. Contents superior to Georgia Spa and Hot Springs developments. Suggest immediate purchase of property. It's signed Martin O. Moss, President.
Well, thanks, Joe. Thanks a lot. I'll call the boys now. So long.
There you are. Sign right here.
Hello, Mr. Jim. I've been looking all over for you.
How do you do, Miss Higgins? Right here, Mr. Edwards.
But
It's all right, Mary. Mr. Harrington has made me an offer and I've accepted it.
I thought I was going to handle the business.
But you couldn't do any better. $10,000 for some land that I bought less than a month ago for $2.
But Mr. Robinson and some of the men in town would like to make an offer, too. They think that if there's to be a resort here, they should be the ones to build it.
I can appreciate their intentions, Miss Higgins, but building resorts is our business. We've got 17 of the finest health institutions in the country. We'll build something here that the town and Mr. Edwards can be proud of.
We have this happen in almost every community we've negotiated, but it isn't every community that can raise $150,000 for medical and building facilities.
I advise you to sign it, young fellow. Personally, I'd like to get to work on this project immediately.
Please, Jim, think it over.
I know what I'm doing.
Why is it in every town we go into, you find a dame?
Why not? It makes the work more enjoyable.
Yes, and it makes trouble. Every time.
Why don't you try minding your own business for a while, Harrington?
It is my business. One of these days, we're going to get knocked off just because of you.
You got no kicks coming. I stood the town on its ear, didn't I? The next time you take the mud bath's bright eyes, I've been living so long it's liable to become permanent.
Shh. All right, relax. Check outside, Peters.
You're right. It was that dame out there. She was listening. She probably heard everything.
Better check on it, Jim.
Get me the police. Hurry.
Hey, Jim!
Hi, Ed. I'm in a hurry.
Hey, what goes at the hotel? Did you sell the property yet?
Yeah, all sold. I'll see you later, Ed.
But I'm positive. I was standing right by the door and I heard it. Every word. Well, I'll find out what I can, but I'm sorry, Mrs. Richards. The house isn't available to be shown yet. Yes, I'll get you the keys the first of the week. Thank you. Goodbye.
Who are you calling, honey?
Just a client, Mrs. Richards.
Mrs. Richards? I don't know any Mrs. Richards. I thought I knew everybody in town.
Well, that's just it. She's just moving in.
You call anybody else?
No, why?
I don't know. Suppose we talk about it, huh?
I'm sorry, but I'm busy now.
Just a minute. I said let's talk about it.
All right, let's.
Fairview Sheriff had finally gotten to me, and I told him not to do anything to scare off our pigeons until I could get out there. Meanwhile, Harrington's money bags had gotten to him, and a meeting was underway at the hotel.
As chairman of the community committee, I feel that you have no right to the property.
We should be the one that billed.
Fairview's dollars belong in Fairview's pockets.
Gentlemen, please. I can understand how you feel, and I think we can work something out.
But you can't, Mr. Harrington. Mr. Anderson would be furious.
I'm a partner of Anderson's, and I make company policy, too. That'll be all, Peters. I'll tell you what I'll do, gentlemen. I think I can maintain the policy of the company and satisfy you as well. Now, we planned to duplicate our hot springs project here at a cost of approximately $150,000. If you gentlemen can raise $50,000, which is equal to 1/3 of the stock, you have a deal. What do you say?
You've got a deal.
It'll have to be in cash, Mr. Robinson. Anderson's a tough man to handle.
Don't worry. We'll have a certified check for $50,000.
Good. Now, our plane leaves in 2 hours. I'll have the necessary papers drawn up, and I'll take that check to New York with me.
Fine. All right, boys, let's get on to the bank.
$50,000. Not bad.
You could have gotten 100.
You're always squawking, aren't you? Well, did she hear?
Yeah.
Did you get to her before she called anybody?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I've got a little news for you. I've called the police. They should be here any minute now.
You're smarter than that, Mary. You didn't call the police. You'd hardly tip us off. She hasn't talked to anyone.
We can't take any chances. We gotta get out of here.
The boys are putting up $50,000. Is it worth a gamble?
I'll take the odds. Come on in here.
Exactly 2 hours later, Robinson and his pals had the money and were hurrying to deliver it.
That's probably them. See that everything's all right in there. Mr. Robinson, gentlemen, we're just ready to leave. We haven't got much time to catch that plane.
$50,000 is a lot of money to raise.
You've got it?
Right here. Certified check for $50,000. Negotiable in any bank in the country.
Mr. Robinson!
I assure you, gentlemen, our project will have better construction than this hotel. Well, I think everything's in order now.
There won't be any trouble with that president of yours, Welder.
Oh, no. You just leave that to me. Here's your receipt and the complete data of our conversation this afternoon. I think I've covered every detail of our discussion.
Well, I believe so. Of course, we'll have to enter into a regulation legal agreement later on.
Oh, certainly. Well, if we're going to make that plain, we'd better be starting. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Good day.
I'll be back first thing Monday morning.
I'll be seeing you at the bank.
Of course.
So long.
Good day, gentlemen.
Goodbye.
Peters, Jim? Everything packed?
Everything's all set, but what about the dame? We'll be across the border before they find her.
Come on, let's get going.
Going someplace, Mr. Harrington?
Who are you?
I'm Captain Braddock from the Racket Squad. The city DA would like to have a talk with you boys.
About what? We're respectable businessmen.
Sure. Respectable businessmen with a private plane chartered right into Mexico City. All right, take them away then. It's the end of the line, Buster. Add this to your collection, Ben. I take it you're Miss Higgins.
I'm sure glad to see you.
The department has a lot to thank you for, Miss Higgins. If it hadn't been for your phone call, those boys would have been working their mud racket in another town before the week was out. Well, alias Edwards, alias Harrington, alias Peters had a good racket. Pretty profitable while it lasted. But with these particular boys, the racket will be dead for 10 years. That is, with time off for good behavior. Believe it or not, many good citizens fall for this racket. And remember, rackets don't always happen to the other guy. So keep your eyes open, friends. It could happen to you. Well, I hope I've been able to give you some idea of how the con man operates in actual cases. The fact is, you'll find con men almost any place. From the scrubbiest parts of town all the way up to the playgrounds of the social set. And in each case, they manage to fit right into the background they're working against. And when you tell a sucker that he's been swindled, most of the time he won't even believe it. But finally, when the truth does sink in, he says, but how was I to know he didn't look like a con man? Well, they never do. Or they wouldn't be in the business very long. Now, can you tell a con man when you see one? Is there any way? No, because he looks just like anybody else. The con man uses only what nature gave him. His brain, charm, an ingratiating manner, and an understanding of human nature that would do justice to a professor of psychology, believe me. Let's face the facts. No one's going to give you something for nothing. Investigate before you invest. Don't be a sucker for these criminals who are so confident they can fool anyone, even you. See Racket Squad next week, same time, same station.